funny. Run like I'm Tony. Not my nigga, you not my homie. Bad love, she tryna blow me. Never going back to the
stone after stone, and it's brick after brick, and it's Minecraft source with a hit after hit. Put a torch down in the pit, now it's lit. Pixelated living.
What's up, guys? What's YouTube? I'm back with another video, and I don't got the green screen and none of that ready yet. I just want to get this video done because, you know what I'm saying, because I really want to react to some pizza delivery stories. So I have to be a little bit more louder, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we about to get in here. Make sure y'all go down below. Well, follow my socials, link down in the description down below. So we about to get in here, y'all, so let's go.
Back when I was in community college, I worked at this pizza place that was basically in the middle of nowhere. It was located in a strip mall at the side of a highway in a pretty rural area, and there were just people dotted around the surrounded area that the store never quite went out of business. But since we hardly made any money, we operated a skeleton crew at all hours, and especially late at night. Sometimes it would just be 2 people in the store, me and one other guy. One would make the pies, and the other would drive them out to the customers. It wasn't always a perfect system, but we managed. Without a doubt, the best time to work was Wednesday or Thursday nights, simply because of how quiet it was. You worked a Wednesday or Thursday late shift and basically got paid to sit around on your butt and talk trash with your coworker. You'd maybe get 1 or 2 calls, nothing stressful, and that was that. But this one night, we get a call almost bang on 11 p.m., a half hour before closing. Any other time, we might actually be kinda angry, but it was just way too out of the ordinary for us to even be mad. Like, I think it was legit the first time we'd ever gotten a call that late. Now, at the time, my coworker is out in his car having a quick smoke before we start our clean down, so I'm all on my own when I hear the phone. Part of me was like, just don't answer it, dude. But honestly, curiosity got the best of me. Most of the families in the county work their farms, so they go to bed pretty early in the evening, so who was calling so late? When I pick up, I don't recognize the voice on the end. Given the nature of the job, I pretty much know everyone who calls, along with exactly what they're going to order. But still, it's not entirely unusual that we get someone new calling. But what was really unusual was how this guy's order differed from most others, not to mention how he was acting in general. So right off the bat, I can tell there's something not quite right with the guy. His voice was super raspy, like he lived in a whiskey still and smoked Marlboros for breakfast. And I know it's about to be a weird call when the first thing he asks for is a hamburger. I'm like, sir, this is a pizza place. I can read you our menu if you'd like.
You guys have a hamburger.
Which was no problem. We only had like 6 different pizzas with a couple of sides. The guy says it's fine. All he wants is hamburger meat. I'm assuming he meant on a pizza since we did actually do a cheeseburger pizza at the time, so I asked some clarification. But no, this guy doesn't want a pizza. He just wants hamburger meat. Raw hamburger meat. I don't even know if I'm allowed to sell raw hamburger meat. Like, I know you can eat raw hamburger meat. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what steak tartare is, but I figured there had to be some kind of food hygiene law against it. I asked my coworker, who was way too blazed to give me a solid answer, so I give the guy an honest answer and tell him I'm not even sure I'm allowed to sell him raw hamburger. The guy started begging and pleading so hard that I was actually speechless for a moment. He sounded like he was fiending for it, so bad that it was actually kind of creepy. I'm even less sure about the whole thing by that point, but after the guy on the phone offers a handsome tip, I make an executive decision and decided to go ahead with the sale. People do dumb stuff for money, right? I suppose this is my thing. I throw what I consider to be $10 retail worth of hamburger meat into a plastic carton, plug this guy's address into my navigation system, then began the drive out to his house. I've been making deliveries in that area of Lawrence County for about 18 months at that time. I'm not saying I knew the place like the back of my hand, but I'd certainly never seen this guy's house before. I didn't even know that old place was there. It was some old farmhouse at the end of a long dirt road, and it looked like it was falling apart. It would have made a great haunted house, and all I could think as my headlights suddenly lit the whole place up was that it was like the start of a horror movie or something. I was the poor, dumb pizza boy, doomed to die in the film's intro that introduced whatever crazed killer or monstrous creature that was the movie's main feature. I park up, walk up the old rickety porch, and since there was no sign of a doorbell, I just knock on this guy's door. When he answers, he actually looks pretty normal.
Bruh.
Like he'd expect some decrepit old witch to answer the door to a house like that. Not a guy in a sweater vest who looked like the dad of all dads. As I'm handing over the bag of hamburger meat, I can't resist asking him why he'd ordered raw hamburger and not an actual menu item. I figured he's going to grill it at home or whatever, so I frame my question as such. But the guy just smiles, shakes his head, and tells me he's going to eat it raw. I must have completely failed to hide the look of disgusted confusion on my face, because the guy then launches into this big speech about the benefits of eating raw meat. I mean, he talked a lot of science terms that I didn't understand,
so
but he seemed to know what he was talking about, and it actually weirdly put me at ease for a second as he fished around his wallet for a tip. He hands me $11 in crumpled ones, and as I count them, I'm like, "Thanks, man. That's really generous." But then I look up, just in time to see the guy crack the lid on the plastic container of meat, bring it up to his nose, and take a long, deep sniff of what was inside. The way he acted wasn't like this wholesome, smells so yummy kind of happy. It seems straight up perverse. I'm just watching, trying not to freak out, as the smell of the meat seems to legit turn him on. He he's something moving in the dimly lit hallway over the dude's shoulder. Poking out at about waist height from behind a doorframe was this big pair of terrified eyes looking back at me from sunken sockets.
What the freak is that?
It was a kid. I don't even know what compelled me to ask, but whatever it was so strong that it overrode any desire I had to flee while I still had the legs to carry me. I remember saying something like, "That your kid, huh?" Instead of giving me this big smile and waxing lyrical about what a proud dad they were,
why are you not in the car?
Something that would have suited his wholesome sweater vest dad look, he suddenly looks furious. He spins around on the spot. The kid looks terrified and disappears from view.
You better slide, you better slide.
He just stares at me, this deep, moody stare that sent a shiver down my spine. And once again, I get that overwhelming, this is my cue to leave feeling. I thank the guy, backing off the porch in a way where I never quite turn my back on him. He doesn't say a word in response, just keeps that angry look on his face, like I'd done something to offend him or seen something I shouldn't have.
Oh my God.
It took 20 minutes to drive back to the pizza place. 20 long minutes I had to replay the interaction in my head over and over again. I called 911 as soon as I got back.
Is he driving
like I had no idea what was going on back there, but it couldn't have been good. No kid should be that scared of their dad, if that guy even was that kid's dad at all. My logic was that I could call 911, find out I just came out at a bad time and took the dude's actions out of context and maybe feel a little embarrassed. Or find out that something horrible was happening in that house, feel horrendous guilt that I failed to stop it, and then be haunted for the rest of my life. Though what I wasn't expecting was that there was actually a third option, one that turned out to be worse than the first two.
Yep, here we go.
So, I called the cops. They go to check it out. Then the deputy gets back in touch to reassure me that he'd been over to the guy's house, had a good look around, and then found that there was nothing wrong. I figured that once a cop had told me that, I'd feel fine. Kind of stupid for assuming stuff, but generally fine. But I didn't. I found myself just not believing the guy. Like he couldn't have seen the same stuff that I had and just walked away being like, "Yeah, it's all good in that house." I didn't do another delivery to that house for the rest of the time I worked there. And I certainly wasn't complaining about not having to make any more weird deliveries. But even today, I find myself wondering what the deal was with that guy and his kid. and whether or not I should have done more to investigate. Because the thing that haunts me the most is that there might be some kind of kid out there going through the most horrifying ordeal of their young lives, thinking like, why didn't that man help me? Why didn't that man help me?
What was that?
So I'm pretty sure there are identical services in America, but over here in England, you can get your supermarket of choice to deliver your shopping or groceries directly to your home. After you make your order, some hard-working, handsome, diligent driver person will load your food into a van, drive it out to you,
This is how he
and personally
dropped me. Watch
deliver
it
them
look.
with a smile. And if you're lucky enough to live in Nottingham, then that handsome driver
That's how he
person
look-
might well be me.
Alright,
Since the whole pandemic thing started, the number of people using Asda's delivery services shot up. In the run-up to Christmas, I worked 8 days straight, from 7 in the morning to 8 in the evening, with hardly any kind of break to keep me sane. It was exhausting, completely and utterly exhausting, and that's the insane level of fatigue I was feeling that takes the blame for the story I have for you today. So, as I'm making quite a large delivery one night, and the roads are pretty quiet, I see blue flashing lights in my rearview mirror. I give it a few seconds and the lights are still behind me, so obviously I pull over to the side of the road to await further instructions.
Alright.
It's about then that I realize that it's not a normal looking police car. It's unmarked, just this plain looking Renault Clio, and the guy that got out of the driver's side was wearing just regular civilian clothes. I lower my window to see the guy flashing a badge and an ID at me,
That fake behind
but he's
Dollar
wearing a
Tree
face
man.
mask for COVID, so it's not like I can see who it actually is anyway.
Yep.
But when the guy says drug squad and asks for my driver's license, I obviously comply. Undercover police are a thing after all, and a city like Nottingham has a lot of drug crimes, so I didn't think anything of the guy being in his own clothes. The guy runs a check on my ID, then explains that a big drug gang has been using professional couriers to ferry product around, and that he and his partner might need to search my rear storage. Obviously, I tell them I'll do anything I can to help, so I mask up, get out of the cab, and open up the rear storage of my van so the police can look around. As soon as the rear doors are open, I notice that the plainclothes officer who climbs into the back is being really rough with some of the produce. I don't say anything at first. I mean, I wouldn't dare start lecturing a policeman on how to do his job, especially when they were hot on the tail of some drug gang and seemed pretty agitated about it. His partner then asked me if he can search the cab of my van, so I open it up for him, and he too starts rummaging around the glove box and stuff, being just as rough and inconsiderate as the officer in the back. Again, I'm quite annoyed by this, and I wander around the back of the van to see how things are getting on, only to find the officer searching back there is in the process of basically ransacking the contents. He's shoving things off shelves, tossing fragile items out the back door. It was outrageous behavior. I finally find it in me to speak up and ask the officer in quite a loud but polite tone to please not be so rough with the produce. "Shut your mouth," was all he said in reply,
Bro, you can
without
catch
skipping
these
a beat
two
too.
fists, bro. Like, come on,
It was
bro.
such a rude response that I was actually a little bit dumbstruck for a second. I dealt with some
That's why your edge
impatient
line built
police
like a-
officers before,
built like a
but this was
Florida
something
hill.
else entirely. I tell him there's no need for that kind of attitude, as I am being perfectly cooperative.
Say something else,
But
bro.
by that
Please say
point,
something else,
his
bro.
colleague has joined me after searching the cab and decides to play the good side of this good cop, bad cop routine.
What's up? We right here.
He apologizes for the inconvenience,
I
assures me of the
apologize.
importance of their work, and then says that he has to search me too, since I might be hiding something on me. By then, I was already late for my scheduled delivery, so that ship had sailed, so I figured I might as well just be a good little citizen and continue to help the police as much as I could. So then right there, parked up on a dark,
What
deserted
the-
street, this masked-up
Why does it
officer
look
starts
like
frisking
weird?
my pants and jacket for anything I should have on me. It was just like a routine stop and search at first, nothing out of the ordinary, but then the bloke asked me to take off my jacket so he can search it more thoroughly. Bear in mind, it's absolutely freezing out, so I'm not best pleased, but I still comply.
That nigga kind
He
of
pats
weird
it down
with
a bit,
it.
tosses it to the side, then tells me to take off my shoes. I
Oh.
shoot him this confused look, and he starts telling me how I
Shit,
could
what can
easily
be in
hide
my
drugs
shoes?
or money
Michael
inside my
Bots?
footwear.
Like-
I'm coming to the end of my tether, but I do as I'm told, and that's when it all goes downhill.
You know this is a
The
fake
police
cop.
officer has my shoes in my hands. He walks around the back of me and starts putting me in cuffs. He tries to assure me that I'm just being detained and I'll be uncuffed once the search is completed, but his explanation does nothing for my nerves. I feel trapped. I'm starting to panic, and I'm starting to realize that something is horribly wrong with this whole encounter.
Something is horribly wrong.
I'm freezing.
What?
I got no shoes on. This police officer is leaning me back towards the van,
Exactly.
and I'm just on the verge of kicking off. Then right as I say something about getting their badge numbers to make a complaint, the officer escorting me back towards the van shoves me to the ground and says something like, "Were you bollocks, mate?" I couldn't believe what was happening. Or maybe it was just that I didn't want to believe what was happening.
What was
Because as I get dragged back to my feet by an officer who has suddenly lost all airs of professionalism, it dawns on me that these two policemen aren't exactly who they say they are. And that's when the raw fear kicked in. Like I said, I'm handcuffed, freezing and shoeless,
Oh.
completely at these blokes' mercy, and to make matters worse, they start asking me questions that they're not liking the answers to. They start asking me where the money is, and I don't realize what they're asking for at first.
Where's
And as
the
if
money?
they still thought I was some kind of drug
Oh,
courier
yo.
or something to that effect, I'm telling them that I don't know what they're talking about,
I
that
know.
it's all online these days and there's no cash in the van.
Yeah.
They responded by throwing me into the refrigerated rear storage unit,
Oh!
threatening to lock the doors behind them. Now, most delivery drivers who have these kinds of cold storage have the means to unlock the door, should they ever get trapped inside. But I'm handcuffed, and my jacket with the keys in it is just lying at the side of the road. If they'd shut the doors on me, I might not be around to tell this story.
We're doomed.
I beg them not to shut the doors, and I know how pathetic I must have sounded because they just responded by bursting out laughing at me, mimicking my pleading in a horrifying display of cruelty and viciousness. They responded by pulling me out of the unit, me hitting the tarmac so hard I think I dislocated my shoulder, before absolutely kicking the life out of me as I was laying there groaning. It was hands down the most terrifying few minutes of my life, and now that I look back on it, I think that's exactly what they wanted. I mean, why rob a bloody supermarket delivery truck? I'm not exactly an armored bank car, am I? They weren't stupid blokes either. The one I spoke to the most had this way about him. Really made me think he was a legit policeman, you know?